Hello and welcome to today's Astranti bite-sized video. What we're going to be looking at today is a topic that CIMA considers especially important and is on the syllabuses for the E1, BA4, E3 subjects. Now, it's a topic I'm sure you will all have heard of, but why I thought this would be so interesting to cover today is that we can really delve into what it is and how it benefits organizations. And as you can see from the screen, we're looking at CSR, which is, of course, corporate social responsibility. And I'm going to begin by asking you a question. Have you ever wondered why big companies give to charity, or perhaps why they promote certain ethical choices? Now, in fact, it's probably not down to their social conscience, and in fact is more to do with their CSR policy. Now, corporate social responsibility is basically, as the name suggests, a company's responsibility to society. And CSR policies tend to cover issues such as environmental policies and sustainability, health and safety, how a business treats its staff, charitable work and contribution, and supporting local communities. So, that hasn't helped us answer why do big companies give to charity. So let's bring up two benefits for the business. And the first is brand differentiation and reputation. Now, in crowded marketplaces, companies need to find a unique selling proposition that separates them from the competitors in the minds of the consumers. Now, what CSR can do is play a role in building customer loyalty based on distinctive ethical values. So you can see we've got the Co-op logo on there, the American Apparel logo on there. They are all built on ethical values. Now, one that's not listed is The Body Shop. That's a very famous beauty chain in the UK, and that was started based on the ethical value that none of its products were tested on animals. And now it also ensures that all their products are from fair trade suppliers as well. It's built its whole brand on this ethical value. Now, if you think about it, let's imagine you have The Body Shop on a high street, and next door you've got another chain that offers similar beauty products, but they don't say their products aren't tested on animals. They don't say their products are fair trade. Now, they might be, but perhaps then the consumer chooses Body Shop based on those ethical values rather than actually the products. So our first benefit of CSR is brand differentiation. Okay, and our second benefit is about avoiding regulation. Now, this stems from the fact that corporations are really keen to try to avoid any interference in their business by the government, perhaps through taxation or regulation. And so by taking voluntary steps, they can persuade governments and the wider public that they are taking issues such as health and safety, diversity, or the environment seriously. So, for example, let's imagine that there was regulation in place that forced an industry to cut its carbon emissions by 30%. Well, what that corporation and what that industry would prefer is to try to convince the government that they are already taking steps to cut carbon emissions, and so they don't need that regulation in place. That's what we mean by a benefit of avoiding regulation. Okay, now let's take a look to see how CSR is perceived in different parts of the world, because different countries tend to have different views on CSR. In the United States, for example, philanthropy is often the approach that is favored. For example, by the end of 2015, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had given away $37 billion. Now, Bill Gates decided to give away his huge wealth as part of the foundation rather than through doing good within his company, Microsoft. Whereas in Europe, the focus is often on being responsible, acting ethically and doing what is right, with most large European companies having active CSR rules and policies, whilst in developing countries, CSR is more limited, partly because of weaker regulation by governments and cultures where it is yet to be seen as important. Now, one driver of change in these countries is that Western companies need to be seen to be CSR focused from a reputational perspective, and so are forcing change in practices in their foreign suppliers. So that's how CSR is perceived around the world. What we're going to do now is look at a variety of ways in which CSR can be built into an organization. And the first of those is using its mission statement. So what we're suggesting here is that CSR values are included within the mission statement. And in fact, this has become quite common practice. Now, what this does is it creates focus for directors when they are setting strategy, and it makes sure CSR is built into that strategy. Now, creating focused CSR objectives with clear plans for achievement also helps to focus the CSR activity, especially when these plans are linked to managerial performance and reviewed regularly. Because of course, if it's linked to managerial performance, then the managers are going to make sure it happens, going to push it through, it's going to become aligned with their own targets. Another way it can be built into organization is through CSR policies, and we've seen, haven't we, this is quite common in Europe. Now, a CSR policy is simply an internal statement of rules and expectations on CSR issues to be applied within the organisation. And of course, if the organisation has these policies, then every member of staff knows what's expected of them with regard to CSR policies. And remember, CSR can include things such as the environment and sustainability. So all the employees will be acting with these thoughts at the top of their mind. The way CSR is applied in America is obviously philanthropy, and that's another way that CSR can be built into an organization. Now, we've seen a common element of CSR is philanthropy, and this includes monetary donations and aid given to local organizations and impoverished communities worldwide. So simply here, to make sure that CSR is built into an organization can be philanthropic and donate money and aid to the needy. Another way it can be done is through benchmarking. Now, benchmarking can be used for a variety of things, but with regard to CSR, it can help an organization compare their CSR performance against other organizations. Now, what it involves is reviewing competitor CSR initiatives, as well as measuring and evaluating the impact that those policies have on society and the environment. And then we move on to social accounting, auditing, and reporting. Now, social accounting involves accounting for and reporting on social and environmental effects of a company's economic actions, because of course then it means the company's paying attention to what it's doing. A number of reporting guidelines or standards have been developed to serve as frameworks for social auditing, accounting, and reporting, and these include the Global Reporting Initiative Sustainability Guidelines and the iOS 14000 Environmental Management Standard. Now, many companies now produce externally audited annual reports that cover sustainable development and CSR issues. These are called triple bottom line reports. But the reports vary widely in format, style, and evaluation methodology, even within the same industry. So there we go. That's how you can build CSR into an organization, a variety of techniques. But what we're going to look at now is something called Carroll's Pyramid of Corporate Social Responsibility. And what I want to ask you is, how do you keep track of all the areas that you need to work on in terms of corporate social responsibility? Well, luckily for us, to answer that question, Carroll devised a 4-part model for CSR and argued that any organization wishing to implement CSR would need to satisfy each of the following 4 levels: economic, legal, ethical, and philanthropic. Now, we're going to go through each of those levels in turn, starting at the bottom with economic responsibility, because an organization has a primary responsibility to stay in business, return value to shareholders, pay its employees, and deliver quality to customers. Now, today, public feeling may find the pursuit of cash distasteful, but this is the primary purpose of a profit-making entity and a necessity for non-profits if they wish to continue to operate. So let's imagine, for example, we've got a company that's spent all its money developing clean energy systems, but can't afford to pay its staff. Now, that would be operating irresponsibly. So keeping the company afloat and generating cash comes first. And that's why it's on the bottom level of this pyramid, because an organization has to fulfill this level first before it can move on to the next. Now, the next level is legal responsibility. So the organization also has a primary responsibility to operate within the law in each country that it operates within. Now, it's not just about staying out of jail. The law provides a baseline for acceptable behavior. So when it comes to developing CSR policies, the legal requirements provide a starting point and a minimum license to do business. Now, most large companies, and particularly multinational companies, have someone working purely on compliance, making sure they are complying within the law of the country. Now, for example, in 2012, the UK Advertising Standards Authority referred Groupon to the Office of Fair Trading, which is a regulatory authority, after the company was found to have broken UK advertising regulations more than 50 times in less than a year. Now, this isn't just illegal, it's not good social responsibility. And then once we've satisfied our legal responsibility, our legal requirements, then we can again move up the pyramid to ethical responsibility. Now, the top half of Carroll's pyramid, ethical and philanthropic responsibility, looks at discretionary responsibilities. In theory, these ethical responsibilities are optional because the organization may not be held legally accountable. However, in practice, they aren't really optional because unethical practices will eventually create a bad reputation for the organization and threaten the primary responsibility of generating wealth. Now, ethical responsibility is all about going beyond compliance and doing what is right and fair. So, for example, Tesco, the UK supermarket chain, came under immense media criticism for its use of private label food brands such as Willow Farms and Boswell Farms. Now, critics said the names of these products gave the impression that the food was sourced from local British farms, but in reality no farms of that name even existed, and most of the food was produced abroad. Now, legally, Tesco can call its brands what it likes, and there is no suggestion that it broke any laws, but critics felt the ploy was unethical and misleading. Now, ethics vary from person to person. Some think it's unethical to eat meat, whereas others do not. Therefore, it's up to companies to try to maintain ethics that are going to coincide with those of the society in which they operate. Okay, so that's our ethical responsibility. What we can do now is move up the pyramid to philanthropic responsibility. Now, this is all about discretionary acts of corporate citizenship, making a contribution to the wider good of society. These are the things that no one expects you to do and no one's going to require you to do, but you do them anyway. So, for example, in an effort to provide better technological support for governments that are slower to embrace technology, Google provides Code for America, a charity with an annual gift of $3 million to develop civic technological solutions. There's no direct benefit to Google, it's just something the company believes would make the world a better place. So there we go, we've got our top level of Carroll's pyramid, and hopefully you can see how you've got to move up through each level to get to the next level of CSR. Okay, so there we go. That is CSR. Let's zoom back to the main board now. And as you can see, we cover lots of other topics in this video, but this is just an extract that covers CSR. But if you do want to see this video in full, then be sure to go to the Astranti website to check out. I mean, we have videos on every topic in the entire CIMA syllabuses, so there's going to be something of interest for everybody, so make sure you check those out. But perhaps you're more of a book learner, in which case I would definitely look at our study guides, which again cover everything you need to know in the CIMA references. And we also offer a different product called Revision Notes, which is basically an abbreviated study text guide. So excellent if you are pushed for time before your exams. But whatever method you take to revise, good luck with your exams, and thank you so much for listening today. If you want to hear more from me, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.